Let's stay at a very high level of summarizing this data and just ask questions about, well, how many deaths were in this sample and how many of the deaths were from illness, how many were from injury. So we're going to go back up to our raw data here. Let's see. Let's click here under in C7, under the total number in each of these groups. So what's our total sample size? I'm going to type in a function equals sum, open paren, click and drag, and close paren. That matches. That's a good sign. That gives us confidence that our data has still got integrity. Let's fill that across. So that's going to calculate for each of these the sum of those 4 numbers above that cell. I'm just going to insert some space here so that we don't get confused. I think a couple of rows. Let's do 3 rows. Okay. So we can see that we have summed the total, the number died from illness, the number died from injury. Do you notice that the number died from illness and injury doesn't quite add up to those that died from any cause? So it's maybe easiest to see it in this row. 50 died from illness, 15 died from injury, that makes 65. But in that group, 67 died in all. So let's add another column called other causes. And what's the formula we want here? We want to know of those that died from any cause, but not illness, so minus illness and minus injury. Is that going to be the right number? Is that what we want? Yep. Can you think of another way of doing that? We could have said died from any causes minus, and then we could have open parenthesis, illness plus injury, and close parenthesis. Same. Let's sum those. I'm going to use fill to fill down to add those columns, those data points in. So now we can ask questions about what was the overall mortality rate for Union soldiers. Of the whole group, how many died? Of the whole group, how many died from illness? Of the whole group, how many died from injury? So let's come down here to D8 and add our percentages as a row right below the raw numbers. So we want to know of the total group, what proportion died at all. The formula for that's going to be equals died at all divided by total group. You want a percentage? You've calculated a decimal, but that's all right. Excel's got a hot button for that. So we can see that just over 10% of the soldiers died in all. For calculating the percentages of the cause of death, I think we want to use the base rate of died. I think we want to say, of those who died, what proportion died from illness? Of those who died, what proportion died from injury? I don't think it's as interesting to say, of all of the soldiers, what proportion died from illness? Of all of the soldiers, what proportion died from injury? Because those are going to be very little numbers. But let's say so the number that died from illness divided by all of those who died. And the same for injury, the number who died from injury divided by all of those who died. Now, what has it done? What has Excel done just then? Did you see I typed a tab and it has filled in? Oh, do you know what it's done? It's thinking that I want to continue the equals, take the cell 3 over and subtract 2 over plus 1 over. I don't think Excel used to do that. You might be on an old, if you're on an older version than this, you might not, it might not have acted that way. And that's good. I'm going to delete it because that's not what I want in this cell. What I want in this cell is the number that died of other causes out of all of those that died. I'm going to take those 3 decimals and view them as percents, add my 2 decimal places. So I can see that 78% died from illness. Only 20%, less than 20% died from injury. Did you know that about the soldiers in the Civil War, that illness was far more likely cause of death than injury? This is some really interesting information that we're gaining from this data. I think it deserves a visualization, don't you? So what is this? This is to visualize those 3 numbers. They are part of a whole. They all add up to 100%, right? Of that whole, 447 died. This is how it is distributed among these 3 categories. So I've got the data points selected. I'm going to take my other hand and hold down the Command key to select the data labels. Remember, it's the Command key that allows you to select non-adjacent blocks. And then I'm going to come up to my insert ribbon and choose a pie chart, because a pie chart's a fine way of showing that part to whole relationship. I'm going to choose a very simple pie chart. All right, so there is our pie chart. First thing we want to change is the color. That's pretty obnoxious having us jump from blue to orange. So let's just make it monochromatic. Excel put a blank chart title in, and I can triple click in there in order to highlight that and start typing. If Excel didn't add a chart title for you, you can come under the Add Chart element and choose to add a chart title. When it's highlighted like that, any typing will replace those words. So let's see. We would consider outcome variable by predictor variable. And so that would be death by cause. That seems a little awkward. It's not really how that doesn't flow very nicely. I think we probably want cause of death. Does that sound about right? We need to include the sample size, so we can include a lowercase n. And what's our sample size? Well, I've used a lowercase, so that should give you a hint that this is of a subset of the population or of the sample. So it's cause of death for those who died, and the n was 447. I don't like having a legend down at the bottom. I think it makes your eyes do more work than they have to. I prefer to have the legend on the right-hand side so that we can see those 3 groups more easily. Let's see what our other options are. We've got the chart title, the data label, and the legends. Not really very many options when you're formatting a pie chart. Under the data labels, what does that do? I'm going to choose best fit because that sounds like a good idea. Oh, do you see what it's done? It's actually included the data as part of that chart. I wonder what other options we've got there. If we come under the data labels and choose the more data labels options, then our format data label dialog box pops up on the right hand side here, and it's telling us that we can have the label containing, we can actually add the category name right there in the chart. Now, if you do choose to do that, then you'd want to delete the legend because you don't want to clutter your chart with redundant information. When you're happy with how your pie chart looks, go ahead and copy and paste it into your write-up and write a sentence, probably just a sentence, that interprets this information. Remember, you don't want to just repeat the information in the narrative. You want to add your interpretation. You want to be telling a coherent story.